So let's implement, actually, let's just build or outline what we're going to build today. So first we want to have a route that gets all items. That's number one. That's this one, get all items. Number two, we're going to want to create like this post item. So we want to be able to create items or tasks. Actually, let's rename this task. Sorry, should be calling it tasks. So we want to be able to create a task. And what if you also want to get a task, like a single task from your backend? You don't really want to like get every single task. Imagine if you have 1,000 tasks, if you want and you only want one of them, you wouldn't really want to get all of them at once. It's inefficient. So we're going to add another method here that's get task by ID. So we can give it an ID and it will return us the task of that ID. And we also have, is it an update, right? Update?
Yeah.
Update? Yeah. So we also want this put request as well to update a task. So update task. And we have one more route, which is the delete. So we want to be able to delete a task as well. Yep. So now that's our like outline of what routes we want. Now let's just go ahead and start implementing. So let's start. Oh, before that, actually, we actually want to have a way to actually sort items. We're not going to teach you guys databases until next week. So for today, I'm just gonna use a Python dictionary to store all the dummy data essentially. So I'm just gonna create a variable named tasks and make a dictionary. Why is it a minus? Yeah, okay. So a dictionary named task that will store all of the like dummy items we have. So we're gonna make the key as an ID, so ID1, and that will store a JSON object, like multiple JSON objects. So like ID2 will have a JSON object, etc. And in each JSON object, let's give it an ID. So ID uh, 1. We have also a description, which will be something like fill eggs. And then we'll have done set to false. So each task will have 3 features. It'll have an ID, so we can differentiate between them. It'll have a description, which is the text you saw on the front end for each line, and we'll have a done. A done is just a flag to tell whether or not we've done the task. So like whether you want to scratch it out or not. So let's just quickly make another one. ID2, description. What's another task? I'll just do laundry again. And done. Let's say this one is true. All right, so we got some dummy task here. And yeah, for this lecture, we're just going to store it in a dictionary for now. All right, let's start making the first endpoint. So the first endpoint is get all tasks. And wait, you're recording, right? Okay, that's good. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
So getting all tasks, how will we do that? So first we want to define a decorator. Remember how a decorator is something that looks like this app route, and then you have like slash blah 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 like here. So this is a decorator, and it will essentially direct when we call like slash blah 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 in our web app, it will direct us to call this function that I'm gonna write below it. So I'm just gonna name this like tasks. And also remember to put a slash afterwards. It's actually not that necessary, but Flask will actually append a slash for you if you don't put it there. So like if I did this, Flask will actually redirect the page to slash task slash. So you don't really want that kind of like behavior to happen on yourself. It's more efficient, obviously, to put your own slash. So this will be our decorator. I'm just gonna type decorator. And then below it, we're going to have our function. So what function is this going to call? Well, we want to get all tasks. So I'm just going to make a function called get tasks. And this should take no parameters. And so how do we get tasks given that we have this like task object on top? So like this is the task dictionary, which is where we store all our tasks. To get them, it's pretty simple. Let me just make a variable name response. And we're just going to return an object, which is going to be a JSON object of all the tasks. So I'm going to name it tasks. And inside it, I'm going to make all the tasks we have into a list. So I'm going to do list. And inside it, we're going to do tasks dot values. Yeah. So essentially what this does is, number one, it takes all tasks values. So it's going to take every single item in here that's not like, so ignore the one. The one is the key, right? And this is the value. So take all the values. So in this case, that first object and the second object below it, which is this. And then it will turn into a list. And then it will put it as the value of this JSON object. So it will just put it into a response. And then all we have to do is return. And then we have some special syntax here, JSON the dumps response. And that's going to be the status code 200. So what this line does is we're going to return that JSON object with JSON.dumps with a status code of 200. And if you remember from last lecture, 200 stands for like successfully, like done, like the process is successfully finished. Yeah, so that's basically the entire get all tasks. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right, that's good. Did I miss anything? I think
Just want to test on Postman, right?
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna save this and I'm going to run it. How do I run shift?
Escape.
Control shift. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Oh, you want to use the other terminal?
it's fine. You can use whatever.
Shift. I do not know the syntax for Mac.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you get that? Yeah.
So we're just activating the ven that we made last time. If you forgot how to do that, that's Python 3-m ven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave that there. And it should work.
All right. Yeah, so now let's get into our ven here where we're already inside our virtual environment. So now we just have to run Python 3 app.py, which will run our web app. There you go. Looks good. So now let's actually copy this local URL. Let me just copy that. And what we're going to start doing from now on is we're going to start testing our backend in Postman. So remember how last time I showed you we could actually test it in the browser, as you guys tried last time. We can actually also test it in this app called Postman, which is what we'll be using to essentially like test backend more efficiently. So
Make a new collection.
yeah. So first, let's make a new collection. This is this Postman. If you open it, we can make a new collection. This is like a folder with all our tests later on. I'm just gonna name it like demo 1. And then over here, we can add, if I right click or wait, right here. Yeah. If I click the 3 dots, we can add a request. So as you can see, it created a get request. So it's a new request and it's of type get. I'm just going to name this get all tasks because we want to test that function. You can see the drop down here. We have all the different types of methods. See, get, post, put, delete was the ones we taught you, but there are other stuff like patch and options and head as well. But for now, we're going to do get because we're going to get all tasks. And then here, I'm actually going to paste the URL that we have from our web app. And we also need to add this route. So 127.0.0.1 was actually just our base URL, right? We actually have to add /task/ to ensure that we're actually calling that route. So we're actually sending the request to that endpoint. So I'm going to do /task/ and let me see if it works if I send this. Hopefully it works. There you go. Yeah, it works. So if I zoom in, how do I zoom in on Mac? Bro, I do not know how to use a mouse.
You good.
Okay.
It doesn't zoom in that
You want to
much.
just like full screen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, this returned like all the dummy data we had. So our get all task route actually works. And to make it look better, actually, you can click this drop down and you can click JSON. So the formatting is beautiful like that. So it looks like much better to read. So as you can see, what I returned just now was I returned a JSON object, which inside had the key tasks, which inside had the list of all the tasks. Yeah. All right. And so that's get all tasks. And shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Sky is going to implement the next one.
Yeah. And sorry if it's a bit confusing with the syntax. It's kind of difficult to like show with a dictionary, but eventually we'll be using an actual database, which in my opinion is actually easier to understand.
Yeah. Like,
So now we're going to be figuring out how to create a task. Um, so as we said, we're going to try and do a post method, and we actually want to use the exact same URL that we did before. So we're going to also do slash tasks, but this time we're going to specify which method we want, and that will be a post method. So it'll be the same thing. We'll just specify that we want to post this time. And now we were getting tasks before. Now we're going to be creating the task. So we'll def create task. All right. So one thing that we actually have to do before we get into this is we need a way to know what our current index is. So we had 1 and 2, but we want to add a what should we call it? Task ID counter. And I'm going to set that to 3 right now because we already did 1 and we already did 2. So we're on 3. And then in here, we're going to have to do global task ID counter because we're trying to update it for everybody, not just within the function. And then we're going to do something this. Sorry, it's hard to talk while coding. But this is basically going to get the body of our request. So we talked about how we have a URL and then we have a body. This is basically going to get the JSON object of the body, which I'll show you in a second, and it'll turn it into a Python dictionary for us to do stuff with. So the things that we're going to eventually have in our body are a description and a task. Actually, I think it's just a description for now. We have a description, and we get that by doing body description. So that basically just gets the description key from our request and puts that into description, the value of that into description. Then we're actually going to make a new task. So the way we do that is basically just copying the syntax of here above. So we'll have an ID, which we'll set to that task ID counter from before. Then we will have a description, and that will be set to the description that we just got here from the body. Then by default, we're going to set the value of done to false because you wouldn't be putting something on your to-do list if it was already done. So then all we're going to do is add it to tasks, add this thing to tasks. So we'll do tasks, task ID counter equals task. And then we are just going to increment that counter. And we are going to do the same thing we did here. So we're going to return json.dumps. And this time we're going to be doing the task because we're going to just return the task that we just created. And this time, which we didn't show you before, but we're going to do a 201 status code, which means that something was successfully created. So 200 just means that it went well, but 201 means that something was created. So now we're going to test this. I see something went wrong here, but let's see.
Oh, it's you're using equals instead of colon.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah.
So we're running that. We're going to go back to here and we're going to make a new request. This time it's a post request. We're going to have the same URL, if you remember. We're just changing the request to be a post this time. And then to add the body, we're going to click body here. We're going to go to raw. Here you want to format by JSON. And then you are just going to do this. And you're going to set the description to be whatever you want. So I need to practice throwing eggs. And then let's see if this works. It does. So you can see that the ID, it was incremented and I can make new ones. They'll just automatically increment the ID. So everything there should be good. I think.
Get off task.
Yeah, and then if we do get all tasks here, we can see that the ones that we just created show up here now. So it's updating live.
Yep.
And then Josh was going to do the next.
Yeah,
function.
we're doing like a weaving thing where we do each do one function. But yeah. So next thing we want to do is getting a task by ID. So as you can see just now, we like every time we get a lot of them. What if we just want to get one? And to do that, the only thing that like makes it different is the ID right here. And this is what you call sort of like a primary key, is like the thing you want to have unique in each like object, so you're able to differentiate between objects. Um, so yeah, let's start with that. So first we need the decorator as usual. It's gonna be route slash slash. So that's our basic like endpoint for tasks, but this time we're not gonna send a body. So how do we want to find a task with ID 3, for example? We're gonna want to send the number 3 to the backend somehow, right? So there's two ways to do this. Remember, I told you that one way is to do it using the body, like how Sky did this now. But it's kind of redundant, just having like it's kind of inefficient to have just a body with just one integer. So another way to do it is to put it inside the actual URL itself, right? So yeah, what is this? Let me just close this. Is it server's live?
Yeah, you can just do
Command C. Wait, can you do Control C? Oh, it's Control C on Mac.
Mhm.
Okay. But yeah. So instead of passing the ID of the task we want inside the body, we're actually going to pass it inside the URL itself. So to do this, you want to have a two like pointy brackets, and then you want to have the type. In this case, the type is an integer, and then you want to have the variable name. So in this case, I'm just going to name it task ID, and then I can actually use task ID inside the function below. So I'm just going to make the function get task by ID. Also note that the function name doesn't really matter because we're actually calling the route, right? So the function name here could technically be anything. Just a fun fact if you guys want to know. But yeah, so in this function, we're actually going to put the task ID into our parameter. So from the route, we're actually going to extract this and we're actually going to put it inside the parameter. So we can use it inside the function. And then the first thing you want to do is, of course, try and find that function, right? So I'm going to create a new variable called task just to like put the task inside that variable. I'm going to do tasks.get, which is like a dictionary function to get a certain element inside dictionary, right? And I'm going to give it the task ID because that's the key. So for example, if I pass in 3 inside my URL, it will get sent here and continuing, it will get sent here. So the task.get 3, which in this case, I mean, it's not here yet, but like if we had a third thing, it will get the object of that third ID. And then this is this more or less the same thing as get all tasks. We want to return it. However, what if the user enters an ID that doesn't exist? So what if like in our backend right now, we have a total of 4 tasks. What if the user does something like get task number 100, right? We don't really want to have unexpected behavior in our backend. We don't want it to just error out and give us a like 500 internal server error every single time the user does something like that. So what we will do is we'll give them a like a nudge, give them a very nice error message to see that they're doing something wrong. So to do this, all I got to do is check if the task exists. So if task is none. So if it's none, I want to give the user back an error. So I'm going to return JSON the dumps, and here I'm just going to give them an like a JSON object, of course, because it's JSON the dumps, and the key will be error, and the value will be you can put any error here, but try and make it descriptive. So in this case, I'm just going to say like task is not found, like that. And don't forget, you also want to give the like the error code, the status code. In this case, because it's not found, can anybody tell me what the error code is? 404, exactly. 404, right there. And this will only occur if the task is done, if we cannot find the task, right? And then if we can find the task, we're going to return the real task object. So it's going to be return JSON.dumps. It's going to be task. It's going to be a JSON object. Wait, task is really JSON. Okay, so it's going to be task. And then we're going to give a status code of 200 because we managed to get it. So now if I save this and see if it's running. Oh, it crashed. Clear. Well, it should be running now. and I go here, and let me just check if get all task work. Right, get all task works. Let's try and get ID number 2, do laundry. So I'm gonna create a new request just to test it. At request is gonna be a get method, and here I'm gonna name it get task by ID. Oh, actually, let me name this one as well. The post one was create task. So here I'm gonna have the same URL, which is this one. And then remember that we're actually passing in the task ID inside the URL. So the URL, like we want to get the task of ID, blah, blah, blah. So here I'm gonna put number 2 and a slash. And we don't need a body because this is a get request. We don't need a body. So if I run that, hopefully it works. Oh, 404 not found. So that it did not work. Wait, what is happening? The server up. Task ID. Did I do something wrong? Task.get.
It's tasks, right?
Tasks.
Oh, maybe it's just that. Did you copy the
Tasks.
last URL?
Is it no slash? Oh, yeah, it is this.
That's weird.
Oh,
Oh, you
so
forgot
see
it.
that? Yeah, that was the problem. I forgot the slash at the end. See, this is why I was telling you guys to remember the slash. I forgot that slash at the end, so it didn't work. So let me save that again. Okay, it should be updated now. So if I put the slash back, it should work. There we go. Yeah, it still works. So as you can see, we've managed to grab that task with ID 2. And we can test this even more. So like, let me add another task, and we go to get all tasks. We see if it's there. Task 3 is there. And then if I want to get task 3, all I have to do is change this integer in our URL. And that should give us the third task right there. Right. So you can sort of start to see how Postman is really useful in terms of like sending requests. Because you have it like all in a folder like this. So definitely would recommend and sort of required to use this when you're doing your assignments later on, to use Postman. Yep.
Yeah. And you can also see it's very helpful for testing what you just implemented, but also for testing like functionalities of your other routes you might have implemented, just to see how they interact with each other. All right, so we have now made it so we can get all tasks, we can get a specific task by ID, and we can create a task. So the next thing that we want to do is be able to update a task. So maybe check it off, say that we've done it, or change the description of it. So the way we're going to do that is going to be somewhat similar. We're going to have, again, an app.route, and then slash tasks slash. We're going to, again, pass in the task ID here because we need to update a specific one. I don't remember the slash.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we can name this anything. We just want to update task. We're again going to pass in the task ID as a parameter here. I keep saving when I shouldn't. Oh well. And then we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to get the task. And then we also want to check if it's none here. So this is exactly the same. We're literally just getting the task. Now we're going to do what we did before. So from the request body, we need to grab that. So we're going to do the same thing, which is body equals JSON.loads request. And if you were wondering from earlier, that's why we have JSON and request here. This is where we use it. So we have the body from our request. We're going to set the description of our task that we got here to be the description that we just got from the body. So we're updating it. And we're also going to do the same thing for done. So if we've updated done, it'll update here. If we've updated description, it'll update here or both. And then we are just going to return it. And here we are going to do a 200 code because we didn't create anything new. We were just updating it. So now I'm going to test this as well, the same way. So I'm going to create a new request. This one is going to be a post request, and I think I may have forgotten, a put request, right? We're updating. I forgot here, but specify what method we're using. So we're doing a put request here. And then we're going to be doing the same thing here. I think that this should be already correct. So let's say we wanted to update the first task. And then to do that, again, we're going to have to do a body for this one because we're updating it. So we're going to set description, the homework, whatever, trying to update it and done. Let's say I did my homework, so we'll set it to true here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I get all tasks here, oh, forgot to run it. It's all running good, that's good. If I get all tasks, the first task is fill eggs. And I'm gonna update this really quick, just update task. If I update this task, it will update it so it is now done and it's changed the description. And if we go here again, it's also updated here. So that's how we update the task by ID. I think that should all be good. Before we move on, I just want to take a second to like ask everybody what's not making sense or if everything's making sense. It's a little bit difficult to code while talking, and this is a little bit confusing at the beginning. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask now or afterwards.
And also notice how update uses both of the methods to send information. It has both a body where we update like the description and the like done. It also has the URL where we put the ID of the task we want to update. So this is an example of where we're using both of them at the same time.
Yeah. In general, when you have small things, just like the integer value of something, you want to put it in the URL and also not secure things. And then if a bigger things you want to put in the body.
All right, so now let's do the last route, which is the delete route. So delete will have the same thing. It'll have a decorator app.route, and then here it'll be /tasks. And here, once again, we're gonna need to specify which task we're gonna delete. So we need to give it the ID. So again, we need the brackets. We need the type, which is an int, the ID, and we want to name it probably the same thing, task ID. And don't forget the slash at the end. So here's name the function like delete task. And here, the first thing.
You should just add the method. I forgot.
Oh yeah, the method as well. We need the method. Says equals. Here we want delete. It's a delete method. All right. So the first thing we want to do is, wait, let's ask the audience. What should be the first thing we want to do when we want to delete a task? Does anyone have an answer? We can get an egg for this one. Yeah. Exactly. So
you got it. I've got a bad track record.
Nice catch. Nice catch. All right. So first thing you want to do is get the task. So task equals task.get, and we're given the task ID. Actually, right here, I forgot. We need to have the task ID inside the parameter so we can use it in the function. And here we're gonna get task with task ID. And also we can actually set right here, we can actually set, I don't know if we want to do this, but we can set in case the task does not exist, we can just put none right here. So this is just some syntax from Python dictionaries where if you cannot find this, the default will be none. But you technically don't need this because afterwards you're going to check anyway, right? We have to check if task is none. So just for clarity, this is just a fact you guys can know, but we don't really need that. So first we're checking if the task is actually there. So if it's not there, we want to return the same thing we've been returning, which is this 404 response. Error, task is not found. All right, but what happens if we actually find a task? So in this case, this will be a bit different as we go on the course. But in this case, we're storing stuff in a dictionary. So we just want to delete the task from our dictionary. So we can actually use just the del keyword. So just delete tasks with ID, task ID. Or not ID, but like the key. So see, in this case, we're actually not using the task object. We're only using the task object that we found to check if it's none. If it's not none, then we are free to delete it from our dictionary. And then, of course, we want to return something. We want to return JSON.dumps. And here, it's just common practice to return what you've just deleted in case the user like needs to use it in their application or something. But it's just good to actually return the task here. So technically, we are actually using it. We just stored it inside task, and if it's not none, we're going to delete it. But then we still have it inside task, so we're going to give it back to the user as like the last time the user will probably see it. And then we're going to have 200 right here as the error response, like the successful response. Yeah. So let me just save that. That should be live. So if I go to get all tasks, see what task we have. We have 2 tasks. So let's actually delete the. Oh, I actually have a question here. Let's first try and delete number 2. So I will just make a new request. Set it to delete. I'm gonna name it delete task by ID. Here we're gonna have the same URL, and we're also gonna have the ID of the task we're gonna delete. In this case, yeah, we're gonna do 1. No body for this one, and let's try and send this. Yeah, so it returns us what we've just deleted, ID1, description, fill X, blah, blah, blah. And if we go back to get all tasks and we send this, well, actually, oh, this is revealed it, but it actually deleted the first task, and we only have the second task left. Yeah, so the point I was trying to make is the question I was supposed to ask was, what do you guys think will happen when we delete something and there's something above it? So do you think the ID will like do you think the ID will like update to like go down so everything is from like 1, 2, 3, 4, or do you think it will stay as it is? The answer is it will stay as it is. Because in this case we're storing in a dictionary and the keys are integers, so they won't change. But this is something you want to take note when you're making backends because there are different like behaviors. Sometimes if you delete something, it will re-index all the other like tasks and it will make everything like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It won't have any holes inside. Like if you delete 3, it won't be 1, 2, 4, 5. But in this case, it won't change the IDs because we're also using a task ID counter here that just increments every single time. But yeah, that's how we delete. So actually, let's just delete everything. Delete task by ID number 2. Send, and that should delete everything. And if you do get all tasks, this should give us task and an empty list like that. Perfect. So yeah, that's basically the entire backend. Let's see if I wonder if it's the front end that's the problem, but if I go back here,
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I never actually tested like.
there's nothing. So that's
You're not. This isn't on a different thing. Like I
different
have it
one.
in a different directory.
Oh, it should be fine though, because we're running the app here. It should be fine. I don't know what's going on with this. All right, this ignore the front end. That was my attempt to like visualize for you guys. And I am not that this is the reason why I'm not a front end developer and I'm a back end developer. So yeah. If you guys want to still have something visual to see, you can always do like what was the URL again? Right here. And this will give us hello world because it's the root. Why is this not working? Yeah, it will give us hello world because I left the root right here. Remember this? But if we do like something like tasks, which will list all our tasks, this is a get method by default. It should give us all our tasks right here in the, I don't know how to zoom in, but wait, like this. Oh yeah. It should give us all our tasks also in the browser. So you can see you can technically test in the browser, but Postman is so much easier. And remember how last time we used the other URL, this one, to sort of ask you guys to try and see what's on my backend. Right now it's totally live and you guys could add random stuff to it. If you have Postman open, you can use that URL and you can add some like random to-do list items if you want. But I don't think anyone's fast enough, right? Is anyone fast enough to like add it there? I don't know. Yeah, we'll do next.
I
Comment?
think one thing that we forgot to show,
Oh,
just I don't know why it keeps asking me that. But one thing that we forgot to show is just like oh, did I just end the recording?
no, you didn't.
Oh, I
don't think
just
so.
stopped sharing my screen. Um One thing just quickly that we forgot to show is that like if you try to delete a task that doesn't exist, it'll just say error task is not found.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, just like to show that real quick.
Yep. That's when you actually like task is none. That's when it actually triggers and it returns the error response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also another thing about Postman is you can see the error or the status code right here. And along with some other stuff like some response time and all that. But yeah, Postman's super helpful for debugging and testing.
Let's show them what happens if you don't catch when the task is not there. So like, let's actually
Yeah.
remove this. Where's the code over here? Let's actually remove the check right here. I do this
Just
like that. Yeah. So if we remove the check, whether a task is like not there, what do you think this will return? Like, let's just start from the status code. What do you think this will return? Anyone have any guesses? 200, 404, 500, anything in between? Any answers? None?
Why don't we find out?
Well, yeah, okay. Why don't we find out? So task 2 does not exist. Let's just make sure task 2 does not exist. So if you get all tasks, oh, task 2 does exist because we restarted. So let's
Just delete it once.
delete.
Try to delete
Yeah,
it.
let's delete task 2 once. So task 2 should not be there, right? Task 2 is not there anymore. And if we delete it again, that's what you see. So this is what 500 internal server error is. It's when you don't catch certain errors inside your code, and it defaults to saying like, oh, something bad happened on the backend, and blame this on the backend developer. So this is something you never really want to have when you're in a project team or like you're developing an app. You don't want people to blame you. So that's why we try and practice like safe programming and like check if stuff doesn't exist. And yeah, it just logs the entire error here. It's incredibly long. It's an HTML like response. You do not want the front end people to find stuff like this. That is why we wrap it inside like the if, like this, if task is done, and then return them an error that task is not found. And the fault is on the front end, not the back end. So everything's safe, right?
Yeah. So I think this is basically everything that we wanted to say for this. Yeah. So one thing before we do the Kahoot for today is that on the assignments, you're going to be expected to write documentation, at least just very simple. So the way that we want you to do that in this class is just this type of format. So it'll just be like create a new task with description done by or not done by default. Just something like that to let us know what this is meant to be.
And yeah, like pro tip, we actually grade whether or not you have a comment in each function. So make sure you have that in because it's the grading scheme that's been used for like a long time. So, and we're not gonna really change it. So make sure you have your doc strings and like have like proper documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.